Today we're going to talk about the neck muscles, what main problems can occur with them, what usually goes wrong, and how to fix it. We'll discuss all of that today. So, the neck muscles themselves can be divided into several groups. The first group is the muscles of the front and back surfaces of the neck, that is tosha subsil. Everything that's located in the front and everything that's located in the back. In the back, let's designate this group of muscles as subsil. This will be our neck extensors as subsil. There are several muscles here, but for now it's not important to distinguish them individually. They perform the main function. This is the extension of the head. Extension means that thanks to these muscles, we can tilt our head back, up like this, subsil. We can look up to see what's happening above us if needed, right? So, we use these muscles at that moment. The second group of muscles are those located in the front, on the anterior surface of the neck. It would seem that their function should be to flex the head forward.
Hi guys. The doctor recommended me a great blood pressure monitor. Easy to use at home, accurate, and reliable.
For example, the largest of these muscles is the sternocleidomastoid muscle. It's located right here, and it would seem that its function is to flex the head forward. But try this experiment yourself. Put your hands here, right where the muscles are. Everyone knows where the throat is. And on the sides, there's this soft area. That's the muscle. Just lightly place your hands on it. You know roughly how a muscle tenses? When it tenses, it gets firmer. Everyone knows that. And when, for example, you put your hand, one or both, on it and start to bend your head forward, you won't feel it tense. At the moment when the head bends, when we are standing, this muscle right here, the sternocleidomastoid, which goes from the clavicle up to the temporal bone, to the process, and one part of it also attaches here to the sternum. It's considered that this muscle participates in bending the head, yes, but it actually doesn't work when bending while standing. For example, if you lie on your back and try to lift your head, then this muscle will tense at that moment. But when standing, it doesn't participate in bending the head. This muscle is involved in turning the head. So, for example, here it is this muscle. When you turn your head, at that moment it tenses, but not very strongly either. It's mostly the part that attaches here to the sternum that works. Why does it have these two parts? A subsil. One part of this muscle attaches to the sternum, the other part attaches to the clavicle, tosha subsil. The part that attaches to the sternum, when we turn our head, it tenses a little, subsil, but not very much either. The first two groups of muscles are the muscles of the back and front surfaces of the neck, right? Now let's talk about their function, what they actually do. And the second main group of muscles, also this is the first main one, and this is the second main one. These are the ones located on the side, right here on the side. Here is the well-known trapezius, the trapezius muscle, which everyone struggles with, right? With its tension and shortening without success. And the second muscle is the levator scapulae, which hardly anyone pays attention to, even though it has a very important function. It goes from these lateral processes of the cervical spine and attaches here to the scapula. As the functions of these muscles are described, they're involved in tilting the head, in turning. They also participate in rotation, but that's not really their main function. The problem is that the main functions of these muscles are a bit incorrectly, well, not exactly incorrectly. they're correct. How should I put it? The functions of these muscles are not just the commonly accepted ones. For example, we think these are flexors or extensors, that these muscles are supposed to tilt the head, but that's not their main function. I'll tell you what their main functions are now. Basically, this position, when we pick up the phone and look at it, when we eat, when we write, we spend a lot of time in this position. In this position, it seems like this muscle is being stretched, right? But it's not relaxing. As it stretches, it's stretching while also holding the weight of the head. And here's an interesting point. Of course, I didn't draw the diagrams very well, but we also have a chin, right? There's no chin in the drawing here. And the neck looks like this. And here there's a chin like this, right? And the neck is thick like this, let's say, like this kind of neck. And this distance right here between the chin and the front part of the neck, the throat, when you tilt your head, it gets much smaller. So, when you tilt your head like this, it puts a lot of strain on this group of muscles. So those short extensors that are constantly under excessive tension at this moment, when you tilt your head and your chin gets very close here, like it's being pulled in. Even a double chin can appear at that moment. That's it. At this moment, there's a very strong stretching of this muscle group, and staying in this position for a long time causes pain in the back of the head and headaches. This happens because the muscle isn't just stretching. The muscle is stretching here without relaxing, and it's stretching while still holding tension at the same time. And all the vessels and nerves that pass through here, the venous and lymphatic ones, get a bit compressed at this moment. The blood flow to the head doesn't change, so it doesn't affect how blood comes to the head, but it does affect how blood leaves from there. That's why tension in this muscle group causes impaired blood outflow from the head, and that's why a bit of venous congestion occurs here. This causes headaches, starting in the back of the head and later spreading anywhere. There. That's one situation, right? Why does excessive strain on these muscles occur when we tilt our head? First of all, it's because there's excessive bending right in this part. So, when we tilt our head forward, it's better for the strain to be on this part of the neck, not on this part of the neck. So if you tilt your head and there's stretching right here between the occipital bone and the first vertebra, that's not very good. These two muscle groups, they both work when you tilt your head, and if when you tilt your head your sternocleidomastoid muscle doesn't activate and slightly move your head forward, then there's excessive tension in this group of neck extensors. This is one common situation. The second involves these lateral muscle groups. There are two muscles here, the trapezius and the levator scapulae. Often these muscles have different tones on each side. But the main function of these muscles is to hold the scapula, to support the arm, to support the weight of the arm. Your arm is here, and all of this holds the weight of the arm. And if you're holding something in your hand, if you're carrying something, these muscles also have to keep the scapula and clavicle at the same level. They shouldn't let them drop down like this. If this happens, there is excessive tension in these muscles. They get injured, they tear. So, because of their weakness, they start to get injured. And in order to somehow lift this dropped shoulder, the muscles of the torso start to work as well, helping to hold it up. So, the shoulder itself drops, but on the opposite side, the lower back muscles will help you hold everything in place. Because of this, scoliosis can develop later on. So if the muscle here becomes too long, the muscle over here can become too short later on to compensate for the weakness of this muscle. So, and now the most interesting part, what we do about all this. What exercises should you do to prevent all this from developing? And if it's already there, how can you fix it? Most interesting part, right? So, you need to train these main muscle groups. First, the neck extensors. Second, the muscles on the front of the neck. And third, the side muscles. How do you do that?